is everything you need to improve in CS2 to improve your aim and get more frags. Everything from how to hold your mouse properly to ways to get zero recoil with every gun. We're going to cover every aspect of aiming in this video. If you're not sure you can trust me, I'm Louis, a 3000 elo player on Faceit, and I play internationally with Team USA at LAN events around the world. I've included timestamps in the description below, so you can skip ahead or revisit any tip you'd like. So one of the best ways to have consistent aim inside of Counter-Strike or pretty much any game is understanding how to move your mouse across your mouse pad. What a lot of people don't do is they don't lift up their mouse, and there's really a few ways that you can do this. So when you're trying to aim and you notice that your wrist is starting to turn, you almost have to pick up your mouse again to keep on continuing to turn, because the reason you want to do this and why it's good is if you don't pick up your mouse at all, you might end up in a spot where you're turned all the way like this, where your wrist is pretty much tilted, and then if an enemy comes up on your screen, you're going to be forced to aim like this at this super uncomfortable position. So when you do lift your mouse, you're pretty much resetting yourself, where when you flick over to the right, you can lift up your mouse again to set yourself up in that default position, which you're pretty much always going to be playing at when you're playing these aim maps. Because when I'm playing aim maps, I'm keeping my arm in the same position pretty much all the time, just like this. And then if I want to flick over, I'm lifting up my mouse, so then I can reset back to this default position that I was pretty much playing like over here. Now, one of the best advice that improved my pistol rounds is letting your movement do all of the work. And what I mean by that is on pistol rounds, if you notice, a lot of the times it's just this constant AD strafe battle that can end literally just you dumping your whole mag into someone trying to run and shoot, because you're constantly trying to move your crosshair and match his strafe, when in reality this is a total waste of your aim. And what you should be doing is lifting your hand literally off of your mouse and just letting your movement do all of the work, and then when the opponent crosses your crosshair, that's when you counter strafe and then hit mouse 1. Now you can use this as well on gun rounds. I've noticed this is really good if you're someone that has more of a tappy aim style, especially with the A1S or the AK, because right now the meta is pretty much just like tapping, crouch, moving pretty much like Donk does, and that can make people miss a lot, especially if they don't have good crosshair placement. So if you just take your time clearing angles and then just strafing like this, letting your crosshair do most of the work while they're moving and shooting, this is a really good counter to what Donk's movement is and what a lot of people are doing inside of Faceit pugs. Just focus on your crosshair placement and movement and let your movement do most of the work, and you'll probably notice that you're going to get a lot more kills, and you might even develop some of that what people call in Valorant smooth aim. Now something that can help your aim tremendously is understanding and realizing that when you flick, it's actually 2 steps and not just one flick onto the head. Now sometimes, and I would say almost 50% of the times when you are flicking, you're going to be flicking directly on the head. But if you notice someone like Simple, where he has super high sense, when he aims at someone, he's doing like this jitter to get the headshot. And what you guys may not understand is he's actually flicking in 2 different steps. So when you want to flick to someone, either you're going to under flick or over flick, and this is what creates the second step with the micro adjustment, or then it's the adjustment onto the head. A lot of newbies have this habit where they will flick to someone and then shoot where they're not even aiming on them because they're skipping this step. So one way that you guys can practice this is when you load into an aimbot map, you just want to flick to a head, you want to stop and see where you aimed and then make that micro adjustment. You just want to start off by doing this slow, and then once you kind of get the hang of it, that's when you can speed it up and then get really good at it. And you might even develop that little shake that some pros have, where they're shaking when they're flicking to someone's head, especially if you do have that high sense. But you just want to make sure that you're not hesitating where you're flicking and then flicking back. Hesitation is something that you definitely don't want, but this is just a nice little drill that you can follow, and then maybe it's something that you didn't even know you needed help with your aim. Next, we're going to talk about a mindset that will change the way you aim in CS2, but first let me tell you about the Monkey. Skins Monkey is a CS2 skins trading site marketplace that provides an instant way to get new skins. My favorite thing about Skins Monkey is that I can trade skins that I no longer want and trade it for a skin that has equal value. If you use code LouisCS2, you get a $5 bonus on your first trade, and if you want to buy skins, you can get a 30% deposit bonus plus an extra 5% using my code. The link is down in the description. Thank you, Skins Monkey, for sponsoring this video. Now I've loaded it into this pre-fire map because I want to explain to you guys a concept, and that's trying to think of Counter-Strike as a 2D surface. Now some of you guys might see Counter-Strike and think it's 3D because there's all these 3D objects, but when you think about how you train, especially if you're playing in Kovacs, Aim Labs, Aim Beast, or even if you're playing on those 2D aim trainers that I always show in my videos, if you almost correlate that and think that what is in front of you is the same as what you're practicing on, you actually might develop some different type of aim that you can pretty much relate to your training. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that Counter-Strike really is just a 2D surface in front of you where you're just flicking to targets, but some people misinterpret it as like a 3D game where like you're clearing angles and all these different 3D objects. But if you switch your mindset to thinking that what is in front of you is just a 2D surface, almost like a wall, when you're playing those aim trainers, you might notice that you can actually start to apply what you're doing inside of Kovacs or Aim Labs or whatever it is, and it could almost change the way that you aim. Because if you think about how settings are, which are pretty much placebo, some settings make people play different. different. So if you can change the way that you aim inside of Counter-Strike and how you think about aiming, it can definitely help you pretty much just shoot heads a lot better. It can definitely help with your flicks. It can help with your mouse movement and all those sort of things. So just switch the mindset off of that you're playing this 3D design game, when in reality, it's just a 2D surface sitting right in front of you. Now, I talked about hesitating earlier in my video, but I want to dissect it because a lot of people do hesitate, and I want to show you what I mean. So one example of hesitating is where you're going to peek an angle, but maybe you're not really like full peeking it. You're like halfway, just like indecisive about the peek. This is something that you don't want to do. You want to make sure that you're really committing and peeking hard. So if someone is like, let's say in pit, I can just kill him with confidence because I'm peeking confidently. I don't want to sit here and hesitate, be like, oh, like maybe he's here, like, oh, you know, maybe I want to peek him. You want to make sure that you're swinging and peeking hard and really using that peeker's advantage. Now, something else that people will also hesitate on is, let's say that I'm coming to clear this A site and I see someone's head, but I don't decide to shoot because maybe I think he's going to tuck. You always want to make sure that you are going for the kill majority of the time. So let's say that I am peeking, I see his head. Even if I see his head and he crouches, I still want to spray because a lot of the times people, they don't even know what they're doing half the time as well. So maybe this guy decides to crouch and then peek back up, and he's just going to peek directly into my spray. So when I am entering up, he decides to tuck. I'm kind of laying some bullets down. Maybe I'm hiding and then I'm going for that kill. You don't want to be indecisive and then just sit here, maybe just jiggle like, oh, maybe he's going to re-peek me. I don't know what he's going to do. You want to make sure that you're going full force, just like Airsoft Fatty said, and trying to get this kill and don't hesitate at all. So this is a little 200 IQ EU tip, and actually you EU players, comment down below if you guys do this, but something that could give you a good advantage inside of an aim duel is if you're peeking when there's other things happening on the map. And what I mean by this is, let's say that I'm sitting in B main right here and I have players in canals that want to pressure E box. Once they molly off E box, let's say flash in and maybe they get a little bit of contact, that's when I would peek, because I'm assuming that his other site teammate is going to be looking at his radar to see where his teammate is moving, or he's just looking at the radar to see if there's any rotations happening. And that's when you can take your time to peek, especially as a site anchor. Like if my E-box player is getting pressured and I'm just jump spotting B main, let's say this guy's starting to call for rotations because they're taking E-box. If I was the B site anchor, I would be looking at my mini-map to figure out where I can make room for my teammate to rotate in. So maybe I'm looking at my mini-map right here and I'm rotating over to dark, and then all of a sudden I get peeked from B main and I'm just dead because I'm trying to make space for my teammates' rotations. This is definitely something that may not work all the time, because if you're playing against someone that's totally clueless, he might just be hard looking at his crosshair right here, just focusing B main, and when that pressure comes in, you know, you could definitely peek and die. But this is a good little tip. If you know someone's tactical towards the game and they're really trying to dissect the game, you can definitely abuse their mind by just peeking off a different pressure. Now, something that will help you win a lot of your aim duels and just seem faster on someone's screen to make you harder react is by using peeker's advantage. Now, one of the best ways we can do this is, instead of just sitting on a wall and then just swinging out, by the time I do that, I get max velocity right here, which means I'm a lot slower coming away from this wall. So if someone was playing over here towards top site, I'm actually a pretty easy target to hit. Now, in order for me to fix this, instead of just starting all the way back here and just trying to pre-aim and then just going like this, one thing that we can do if you want to peek really fast is you can just straight to the left real quick and then peek. So by the time I'm here, I'm already max velocity and I'm going to look a lot faster on my opponent's screen. Now, something else you could do is just AD like this and then peek, and then right here I am 215, which is just, you know, a little movement trick that you guys can do while you're peeking. And then the other thing as well to really abuse peeker's advantage to the max is by never sitting still. So let's say I'm sitting car and maybe the opponents don't even know I'm here, but I just want to be ADing like this just out, so when they do clear me, if they do want to just like full sprint, full speed peeker's advantage, I don't want them to see me first because that's going to put me at a huge disadvantage. So instead, when you're sitting in corners, even over here towards Goose, if they're coming up towards Cat, I want to just be sitting here ADing, so when they are peeking me, I'm actually peeking them as well, which gives me a very even duel, which is what you want to create inside of Counter-Strike. Now, if you're someone that struggles with spraying, one good tip that I can give you is just tap crouch when you shoot, because if I shoot my bullets right here, you're going to see they go up in a straight line, but if I start to spray and then crouch, you're going to see, without even controlling my recoil, the same amount of bullets that look like this are going to look exactly like that. So if you do struggle with spraying, I would recommend not committing to a crouch spray, but simply just tap crouch when you're pulling down, and you're going to have a lot tighter spray. Now, what is also cool with this is that something that Donk abuses is that when he does see an opponent, he does decide to tap crouch, and the reason he does this is not only for the recoil's sake, but it also draws off the crosshair of the opponent, because if this person is going to peek me at headshot level, if I decide to crouch, he then has to adjust his crosshair down, or if he started to spray, he's going to have to pull down a lot harder than what he was originally thinking, and it's going to just throw off his whole game. Now, since we were just talking talking about peeker's advantage, there's one perfect way to counter it. So in this workshop map, the bot is going to spawn right here in the middle, which means he's going to be full velocity off this wall. So if I were to shoot this bot and try to hold my crosshair really close, obviously I'm going to miss a shot unless I just have some insane reaction time. And the way to counter peeker's advantage is actually hold your crosshair farther out. So if I held my crosshair right here on the wall, you're going to see it's a lot easier for me to kill this bot that's trying to strafe across instead of me trying to hold really tight and just trying to guess when he's going to peek. Now, when you hold your crosshair a lot wider like this, it's going to give you a more of a time to react. And it's also going to give you time to even do like the little donk crouch if you want, where you're trying to move to be that hard target. Now, one good pro that does this very well is Stewie2K. If you guys watch this stream, you'll see him holding angles with his crosshair so far out, just so he has time to react on someone wide swinging, especially if you're playing like Premier or a faceit pug. A lot of players aren't going to be jiggle peeking out angles. They're not going to be sitting here jiggling, trying to see if you're going to peek. They're literally just going to full send wide swing just like this bot. So make sure you guys are holding your crosshair far out from the wall. And then if you notice that maybe you have to hold it really far out where it should be more towards the middle like this, you definitely need to work on your reaction time just a little bit. And this is a great map that you can do that on. Now, something that I recommend for everybody that plays any aim game with a mouse is to have an anchor point on your mouse pad. And what I mean by that is resting a part of your hand on the mouse pad. So for me, this part will be resting on the mouse pad when I'm playing. Some people use all of their wrists. Some people use this part of their hand, whatever it is. But you just want to have that resting on the mouse pad. And this is going to make it a lot easier for you to just drag your crosshair in a nice horizontal line across your screen, and it's going to keep it consistent. If you remember what I talked about with the lifting your mouse, you're also going to have to apply that with the anchor point. So when you are aiming or doing like a big flick, you want to make sure that you're always landing on that default position with the anchor point. And this is going to keep your flicks and your muscle memory so consistent. So when you are shooting aimbots or doing anything, all this practice won't go to waste, because you're going to pretty much be able to mimic the way that you had your hand on your mouse, and then pretty much the way you're sitting will correlate into that, and it will keep it very, very consistent. Then you'll notice all this training of aimbots and aim labs, whatever you're using, will start to be really applied because you're staying consistent in the way you're pretty much holding your mouse and the way you're sitting in your chair. If this video helped you, make sure to check out this video on how to rank up in Faceit fast by clicking the video on screen now.